Maya Rodriguez moved quickly through the medical bay of the UHS Mercy as alarms blared throughout the ship. Her hands worked with practiced skill as she cleaned the deep wounds on Captain Jake Morrison's chest. Blood covered his uniform and his breathing came in sharp gasps. The medical scanner showed internal bleeding and 3 broken ribs, but nothing that would kill him if she worked fast enough. "Doctor, we need you in Surgery Bay 2, called Nurse Amy Carter from across the room. 3 more wounded soldiers had just arrived from the rescue pods that the Mercy had picked up near the destroyed colony of New Denver. Maya looked at Jake's wounds one more time and injected him with pain medicine and healing accelerants. "Stay still, Captain," she said in her calm voice. "You will live, but I need to stop the bleeding first." She pressed her hands against the worst cut and felt the warm blood slow under her touch. This was what she lived for, saving lives and bringing people back from the edge of death. Every person she saved was a victory against the darkness that seemed to be spreading across human space. Jake grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. His eyes were wide with fear and something else that Maya had never seen before in a soldier's face. "Doctor, you don't understand what they did to us," he whispered. "The aliens, the Kethvar, they don't just kill people. They study us while we die." Maya had heard reports about the new alien race that had attacked the outer colonies, but she had been too busy treating the wounded to pay much attention to military briefings. Her job was to heal, not to fight wars. "Captain, you need to rest," she said gently. "The military will handle the aliens. I just need to handle your injuries. No doctor you need to know." Jake's grip tightened on her arm. "At New Denver, they captured our medics first. They wanted to learn how we heal so they could make us suffer longer. They took Dr. Sam Kelly and made him watch while they tortured children just to see how human medicine works." The blood drained from Maya's face as she heard Sam's name. He had been her best friend in medical school and had taught her half of what she knew about trauma surgery. "Sam is alive?" she asked quietly. "I don't know," Jake said. "When we escaped, he was still with them. But doctor, they weren't interested in killing him quickly. They wanted to learn everything about how we treat pain and injury. They said human doctors were valuable because we understand suffering." Maya finished sealing Jake's wounds and moved to the next patient, but his words stayed with her. The idea that someone would use medical knowledge to cause more pain instead of healing it made her feel sick. She had spent her whole life believing that medicine was sacred and that all life deserved protection. The thought that aliens might twist that knowledge into something evil was almost too horrible to imagine. The next patient was a young woman named Lisa Brooks, who had burns covering most of her arms. As Maya worked to clean and treat the damaged skin, she listened to Lisa tell her story. The Kethvar had not just destroyed New Denver. They had systematically captured anyone with medical training or scientific knowledge. They seemed especially interested in doctors and nurses. They had these devices, Lisa said through gritted teeth as Maya applied healing gel to her burns. They could keep people alive even with terrible injuries. But they weren't trying to save anyone. They were studying how much damage a human body could take before dying. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she worked. Everything she had dedicated her life to, the careful study of human biology, the techniques for fighting disease and injury, the knowledge of pain and healing, could be turned into weapons against her own species. The aliens weren't just killing humans. They were perverting the very science that was meant to preserve life. Over the next few hours, Maya treated 12 more survivors from New Denver. Each one told similar stories about Kethvar research facilities where human doctors were forced to participate in experiments on their own people. The aliens seemed to believe that understanding human medicine would give them an advantage in their war against humanity. As Maya worked late into the night, she began to understand something that changed her forever: her dedication to healing. and her refusal to cause harm had always been her greatest strength. But in a war against enemies who saw healing as just another weapon, her compassion might become humanity's greatest weakness. The final patient of the night was a child named Alex Thompson, who could not have been more than 10 years old. He had no serious injuries, but he would not stop shaking and would not speak. Maya sat beside his bed and held his small hand while he stared at the ceiling with empty eyes. "What did they do to you?" she whispered, but Alex just continued staring. Maya realized that some wounds could not be healed with medicine or surgery. Some kinds of damage went deeper than anything her training had prepared her to fix. And somewhere out there in the darkness, the aliens were learning new ways to create exactly this kind of suffering. For the first time in her career, Dr. Maya Rodriguez began to wonder if there were some problems that could not be solved by healing alone. 3 weeks after treating the survivors from New Denver, Maya's world collapsed completely. The UHS Mercy had been responding to a distress call from a research station when Kethver ships surrounded them. The alien vessels appeared out of nowhere, with technology that made human ships look like toys. Within minutes, the Mercy's weapons were disabled, and boarding pods attached to the hull like metal parasites. Maya had been in the main medical bay when the aliens cut through the ship's armor. She watched in horror as creatures that looked like giant insects walked through the smoke on 4 legs, while their upper arms carried weapons that hummed with energy. Their compound eyes reflected the emergency lights, and their mandibles clicked as they communicated in sounds that hurt human ears. The largest, Kethver, moved directly toward Maya. Its voice came through a translation device that made every word sound like grinding metal. "You are the primary healer," it stated rather than asked. "You will serve the hive mind Zeekther, or your species will die slowly." Maya raised her hands to show she was not armed. "I am a doctor," she said. "I help injured people. I don't fight in wars." She hoped that even aliens would understand the concept of medical neutrality. The creature's mandibles opened in what might have been laughter. "Your healing knowledge serves us now. You will tend to our Morvaki slaves so they can continue fighting. You will also observe as we study human pain responses. For our research, over the next several days, Maya learned the true horror of what the Kethver called research. They had converted part of the Mercy into a laboratory where they conducted experiments on captured humans. The aliens wanted to understand every detail of human biology, especially how humans experienced and responded to different types of injury. And illness. Maya was forced to watch as Zeekther and his scientists carefully inflicted precise wounds on human prisoners. They would damage specific organs or break certain bones, and then demand that Maya explain exactly how much pain the victim was feeling and how long they would survive. When she refused to answer, they would hurt the prisoners more until she provided the information they wanted. The worst part was that the aliens were learning. Each experiment taught them something new about human weakness. They discovered which injuries caused the most psychological trauma. They learned how to keep humans conscious during procedures that should have caused them to faint from pain. They found ways to damage the human nervous system that created new kinds of suffering that Maya had never seen before. Lieutenant Amy Carter had been captured during the boarding action and was being held in the same section as Maya. Amy was a tactical officer who had spent years studying military strategy and alien combat techniques. During their brief moments alone, she tried to convince Maya that cooperation with the Kethver was making things worse for everyone. "Doctor, every time you help them understand how we heal, you give them new ways to hurt us," Amy whispered during one of their conversations. "They are not just torturing these people for fun. They are building a database of human medical knowledge that they will use against our entire species." Maya felt torn between her oath to help the injured and the growing realization that her help was being used to harm others. "But if I refuse to treat the Morvaki slaves, they will die," she replied. And if I don't explain human medicine to them, they will just torture more prisoners until someone else tells them what they want to know. Amy grabbed Maya's shoulders and looked directly into her eyes. Doctor, you have to understand that this is not medicine anymore. This is war. Every Morvaki slave you heal goes back to killing more humans. Every detail you give them about human biology becomes a weapon they use against our colonies. The breaking point came when Maya was ordered to examine Dr. Sam Kelly. Her old friend had been captured at New Denver and had endured weeks of Kethver experimentation. When she saw him, Maya barely recognized the man who had taught her surgery. Sam's eyes were hollow, and his hands shook constantly. The aliens had damaged his nervous system in ways that left him in constant pain, but perfectly conscious. Maya, Sam whispered when he saw her. They made me tell them everything. How to treat shock, how to prevent blood loss, how to keep someone alive during surgery. They use everything I taught them to make the torture last longer. Tears ran down his face as he spoke. I tried to lie, but they always knew. They would hurt someone else until I told them the truth. Ziegther watched this reunion with obvious satisfaction. Your colleague has been very helpful, the alien said through its translator. But we have learned everything he knows. Now we will demonstrate our new techniques on him while you observe and provide medical commentary. What happened next destroyed something fundamental in Maya's soul. She was forced to watch as the Kethver used Sam's own medical knowledge against him. They applied techniques he had taught them to keep him conscious and aware while they systematically destroyed his body. Every time Maya tried to look away or refused to comment, they would increase his suffering. The session lasted 6 hours. When it was over, Sam was still alive, but he was no longer the man Maya had known. The aliens had broken something in his mind that could never be repaired. As they carried him away, Sam looked at Maya one last time and whispered, "Kill me." That night, as Maya lay in her cell, she finally understood what Amy had been trying to tell her. The Kethver had weaponized her compassion. They had taken her greatest strength, her desire to heal and preserve life, and turned it into a tool for creating suffering. Every act of mercy she performed gave them more information to use against humanity. For the first time in her life, Dr. Maya Rodriguez began to think seriously about killing, not healing, not helping, not preserving life, but ending it quickly and completely. She realized that sometimes the greatest act of mercy was not to save someone, but to make sure they never suffered again. Maya's first kill was almost accidental. She had been forced to treat a Kethvar guard who had been injured during a fight with human prisoners. As she worked on the alien's wounds, she noticed something interesting about its nervous system. Creature's biology was different from humans in ways that made it vulnerable to certain drugs that were harmless to people. The guard had multiple fractures in its exoskeleton and internal bleeding that required surgery. Maya used this opportunity to study Kethvar anatomy more carefully than she had ever been allowed to do before. She discovered that their hearts worked differently than human hearts, and that their blood chemistry responded to stimulants in unexpected ways. "You work quickly for a human," the guard said through its translator as Maya sealed its wounds. "Perhaps you understand that cooperation benefits your species." Maya looked into the creature's compound eyes and felt something cold settle in her chest. This same guard had been present during Sam's torture session. She had watched it take notes while her friend screamed. "I understand many things," she replied quietly, as she prepared an injection of what appeared to be standard pain medicine. But the injection contained a carefully calculated mixture of human stimulants that Maya had modified based on her observations of Kethvar biology. She had tested her theory on tissue samples and knew exactly what would happen. The drugs would cause the alien's heart to beat faster and faster until it simply stopped. "This will help with the pain," Maya said as she administered the injection. The guard nodded and closed its eyes. Within minutes, its breathing became irregular and then stopped completely. Maya checked for vital signs and confirmed that the creature was dead. To anyone watching it would appear that the guard had died from its injuries, despite her best efforts to save it. Amy Carter was the first person Maya told about what she had done. The tactical officer was impressed, but also concerned about Maya's emotional state. "Doctor, are you sure you are ready for this?" Amy asked during one of their whispered conversations. "Killing changes people, especially people who have spent their lives saving others." "I am not the same person I was before they captured us," Maya replied. "Every day I watch them use my knowledge to hurt innocent people. Every technique I teach them becomes a new way to torture our species. If I can find ways to stop them without compromising more medical information, then I have to try." Over the next week, Maya began developing what she thought of as medical weapons. She created drug combinations that would kill Kethfer quickly while pairing to be standard treatments. She identified weak points in alien anatomy that could be exploited during routine medical procedures. Most importantly, she began teaching other human prisoners how to recognize and target these vulnerabilities. The opportunity for a larger operation came when Sergeant Alex Thompson's resistance cell infiltrated the ship. Alex had grown up to become a Marine after surviving the New Denver attack, and he had spent months tracking the ship that held the captured humans from his colony. Maya had been expecting some kind of rescue attempt and had prepared the medical bay for what she planned to do. When the shooting started, Maya was treating 3 Kethver patients in the medical facility. She moved quickly and efficiently, using surgical tools as weapons for the first time in her life. A laser scalpel designed for delicate surgery could cut through alien exoskeleton just as easily as human tissue. Medical sensors that monitored vital signs could be modified to deliver fatal electrical shocks. But the most important kill came when Maya faced the Kethver scientist who had been running the human experiments. The creature tried to use human prisoners as shields when Alex's team reached the laboratory section. Maya approached the alien with her hands raised as if she intended to surrender. "Doctor, you will order these humans to stop fighting or we will execute every prisoner on this ship," the scientist commanded through its translator. Several human captives were chained to tables around the laboratory, and the alien held a weapon that could kill all of them instantly. Maya stepped closer to the scientist and spoke in her calmest medical voice. "I understand," she said, "but first, I need to check on the prisoners to make sure they are not seriously injured. You want them alive for your research." The scientist relaxed slightly and allowed Maya to approach the nearest prisoner. But instead of checking the human's condition, Maya grabbed a container of concentrated acid that the aliens used for their experiments. Before the creature could react, she threw the acid directly into its compound eyes and respiratory system. Kethver scientists died screaming in a way that reminded Maya of every human victim she had been forced to watch. She felt no guilt or remorse as she watched it writhe on the floor. This was not murder, she realized. This was surgery on a galactic scale. She was cutting out a cancer that threatened her entire species. When Alex's team secured the medical section, they found Maya calmly treating the rescued prisoners. She worked with the same steady hands and focused attention that she had always brought to surgery. But now there was something different in her eyes. She had learned to apply the precision and knowledge that made her a great healer to the task of killing efficiently and without hesitation. "Doctor, we need to get everyone to the escape pods," Alex said as explosions echoed through the ship. "More Kethver vessels are approaching, and we only have a few minutes." Maya nodded, but continued working on a prisoner who had severe internal injuries. "This man will die if I don't finish stabilizing him," she said without looking up from her. "Work. You evacuate the others. I will follow when he is stable enough to move." "Doctor, we don't have time," Alex insisted. "We have to leave now." Maya finally looked up at him, and Alex saw something in her expression that made him step back. "Sergeant, I have spent weeks learning how to kill these creatures efficiently," she said in a voice that was perfectly calm and completely cold. "I am not leaving any human behind to become their research material. We have 2 minutes to finish this evacuation, and I intend to use every second." She returned to her work with absolute focus, while Alex and his team prepared the final escape. Maya had discovered something about herself that changed everything. She could kill without hesitation when necessary, but she would never abandon her commitment to saving human lives. The combination of these two abilities made her something new and dangerous in a galaxy that had never seen anything like humanity's. Capacity for controlled violence in service of mercy. Word of Maya's actions spread through human military command faster than she expected. Within days of her rescue from the Kethfer ship Admiral Lisa, Brooks requested a personal meeting at the military headquarters on Earth. May found herself sitting across from one of humanity's most respected naval commanders, explaining how she had learned to kill aliens with medical precision. "Dr. Rodriguez, your service record shows 15 years of exemplary medical practice," Admiral Brooks said as she reviewed Maya's file. "No disciplinary actions, multiple commendations for life-saving surgery under combat conditions, and the highest possible ratings from every commanding officer you have served under. Now I am reading reports that you single-handedly eliminated 6 HFY, including a senior research scientist, using improvised medical weapons." Maya met the Admiral's gaze without flinching. "Yes, ma'am. I discovered that my medical knowledge could be applied to killing aliens as effectively as it had been applied to healing humans. The Kethver were using our compassion against us, so I decided to use their biology against them." Admiral Brooks leaned forward with obvious interest. "Doctor, what you accomplished on that ship represents something entirely new in human military capability. You combined medical expertise with combat effectiveness in ways that our best Special Forces operatives have never achieved. I want to offer you a position that will allow you to develop these techniques on a larger scale." "What kind of position?" Maya asked. She was still adjusting to the idea that her transformation from healer to killer was being seen as an asset rather than a tragedy. "We are forming a new unit that combines medical personnel with special operations training. The Kethvar have shown us that this war will not be won through conventional military tactics alone. We need people who understand both how to preserve human life and how to eliminate alien threats with surgical precision." Maya considered the offer carefully. Part of her missed the simplicity of her old life, when her only concern was healing the injured. But she also knew that returning to traditional medicine would mean ignoring everything she had learned about the true nature of this war. "Admiral, what would my duties involve exactly?" "Initially, you would work with our intelligence division to develop new interrogation and elimination techniques. The Kethver have captured hundreds of human military personnel, and we need ways to extract information from aliens while leaving no evidence of our methods. Later, you would lead field operations that require both medical and combat expertise." The idea of using her medical knowledge for interrogation made Maya uncomfortable, but she understood the necessity. "Would I still be able to treat human patients?" she asked. "Doctor, that would be your primary responsibility," Admiral Brooks replied. "We are not asking you to abandon healing. We are asking you to expand your definition of what healing means. In wartime, sometimes the best way to save human lives is to eliminate the threats against them." Maya accepted the position and spent the next month in specialized training that felt both familiar and completely alien. She learned advanced anatomy for 12 different alien species, focusing on the most efficient ways to cause unconsciousness, paralysis, or death. She studied new pharmaceutical compounds that could be used as weapons while appearing to be medical treatments. Most importantly, she learned how to compartmentalize her emotions so that she could switch between healing and killing as the situation required. Her first field assignment came when Captain Jake Morrison requested her for a rescue operation. Jake had recovered from his injuries and was now leading a strike team tasked with liberating human prisoners from a HFY research facility. Maya's job was to provide medical support for the team while also gathering intelligence about alien research methods. "Doctor, I want you to know that this mission is personal for me," Jake said as they prepared for deployment. "The facility we are attacking is where they took Dr. Sam Kelly after the torture session you witnessed. Intelligence suggests he might still be alive." Maya felt her pulse quicken at the mention of Sam's name. She had tried not to think about her old friend's fate, but she had never stopped hoping that somehow he had survived. "Captain, what is the primary objective of this mission?" "Officially, we are there to rescue human prisoners and gather intelligence about HFY biological weapons research," Jake replied. "Unofficially, I want to find Sam and bring him home. But doctor, you need to understand that the people we find in that facility may not be the same people who were captured. The aliens have had months to experiment on them." Maya nodded grimly. She understood that some of the prisoners might be beyond saving and that her job might involve making difficult decisions about who could be helped and who could not. "Captain, I am prepared for whatever we find in there." The mission launched 3 days later, with Maya serving as both team medic and alien biology specialist. As their ship approached the HFY facility, she reviewed everything she had learned about eliminating alien threats quickly and quietly. She carried medical supplies for treating human injuries and also carried several custom drug combinations that could neutralize HFY guards without raising alarms. But Maya had also prepared something else for this mission. Based on her study of HFY physiology, she had developed a biological agent that would target the specific neural pathways that the aliens used for their hive mind communication. If she could introduce this agent into the facility's environmental systems, it would effectively blind the aliens to what was happening around them. As their ship entered the facility's docking bay, Maya felt the familiar calm that came over her before important surgery. She was no longer just Dr. Maya Rodriguez, the healer. She was also something new that the galaxy had never seen before. She was a human who wielded death in service of life, and who could apply the precision of medical science to the task of eliminating threats to her species. The combination of these abilities made her the most dangerous kind of enemy that any alien race could face. She understood life well enough to preserve it when possible and to end it efficiently when necessary. Most importantly, she had learned to make these decisions without hesitation or regret, because she understood that in this war, the greatest act of healing was often the complete elimination of the disease. The HFY research facility was worse than anything Maya had imagined. As Jake's team moved through the corridors, they found laboratories filled with human subjects who had been kept alive for months of continuous experimentation. The aliens had perfected techniques for maintaining consciousness during procedures that should have been fatal, and had developed new methods of studying pain that went beyond anything in Maya's medical training. Maya's first priority was triaging the prisoners to determine who could be saved and who was beyond help. She moved through the facility with clinical detachment, making rapid assessments based on years of medical experience and recent knowledge of what the human body could survive. Some prisoners had been subjected to neural experiments that left them aware but unable to communicate. Others had been infected with alien diseases that were slowly consuming their organs while keeping them conscious. "Doctor, we found Dr. Kelly," Jake called from a laboratory in the facility's center section. Maya hurried to join him and found Sam strapped to a table, surrounded by monitoring equipment. Her old friend was conscious, but his eyes showed no recognition when she approached. The aliens had been using him as a test subject for their latest research into human nervous system manipulation. Maya ran a quick medical scan and felt her heart sink. The HFY had damaged Sam's brain in ways that could not be repaired with any known medical technology. He was aware of his surroundings, but could not form memories or recognize familiar faces. Worse, the alien devices attached to his nervous system were causing constant pain that would continue until he died. "Sam, can you hear me?" Maya asked gently as she examined the alien technology that had been surgically implanted in his skull. Her friend's eyes focused on her face for a moment, but there was no recognition or understanding. The man who had taught her surgery and saved hundreds of lives had been reduced to a living laboratory specimen. Jake stood beside the table with his weapon ready, watching for alien guards while Maya worked. "Doctor, can you remove those devices and get him stable for transport?" he asked. Maya studied the alien implants more carefully and realized the horrible truth. The HFY had designed them to integrate with Sam's nervous system in a way that made removal impossible. If she tried to disconnect the devices, he would die instantly. But leaving them in place meant that he would continue to experience unbearable pain until his body finally gave out. "Captain, there is something you need to understand," Maya said quietly. "The aliens have done something to Sam that cannot be undone. These implants are keeping him alive, but they are also causing him constant agony. Removing them will kill him, but leaving them means he will suffer for weeks or months before dying naturally." Jake looked at his old friend, and Maya could see the pain in his eyes. "Doctor, what are you telling me?" "I am telling you that sometimes the kindest thing a doctor can do is end suffering quickly rather than prolonging it," Maya replied. She had prepared for this moment during her training, but actually facing the decision was harder than she had expected. Sam would not want to live like this. The man we knew is already gone. Maya prepared a syringe with a fast-acting neural suppressant that would shut down Sam's brain functions within seconds. It was the same technique she had used to kill HFY guards, but applied now as an act of mercy rather than warfare. As she held the injection, she looked one more time into Sam's eyes and saw a moment of clarity that told her he understood what she was about to do. "Thank you," he whispered in a voice so quiet that only Maya could hear it. She administered the injection and watched as her oldest friend's suffering finally ended. It was the hardest thing she had ever done, but also the most merciful. The rest of the rescue operation became a blur of medical decisions that would have been impossible for the person Maya used to be. She found 37 human prisoners in the facility and determined that 19 could be saved with immediate medical intervention. The remaining 18 were beyond help, and Maya made the difficult choice to end their suffering rather than leave them for the aliens to continue. Torturing. Each decision required both her medical expertise and her willingness to take responsibility for ending life when necessary. Maya moved through the facility like a force of nature, healing those who could be healed and granting peaceful death to those who could not. She had become something that the galaxy had never seen before, a healer who understood that sometimes killing was the ultimate act of compassion. The final confrontation came when hive mind Zeekther arrived with reinforcements to retake the facility. Maya had been expecting this encounter and had spent weeks preparing for it. She had studied recordings of the alien commander's voice patterns and had developed a custom biological weapon designed specifically for his unique physiology. "Human. Doctor, you have interfered with valuable research," Zeekther said through his translator as he entered the main laboratory where Maya was treating the last group of rescued prisoners. "You will surrender now or watch these humans die slowly." Maya looked up from her work with the same calm expression she had always brought to surgery. "Hive mind Zeekther, I have something for you," she said as she reached for what appeared to be a standard medical scanner. "I think you will find it very interesting." The device she held was actually an aerosol delivery system loaded with the biological agent she had created. When she activated it, the weapon released a cloud of engineered pathogens that were designed to target the specific neural pathways that Kethver used for higher brain functions. Ziegler realized what was happening just as the agent began affecting his nervous system. "You cannot," he said, as his translator began producing garbled sounds. "Healers do not. You are wrong," Maya replied as she watched the alien commander collapse. "Healers do whatever is necessary to protect their patients. Sometimes that means saving lives, and sometimes it means ending the lives of those who threaten the innocent. You taught me that when you made me watch you torture my friend." As Ziegler died, Maya felt no satisfaction or revenge, only the clinical satisfaction of a surgeon who had successfully removed a dangerous tumor. She had learned to apply the precision and knowledge that made her a great doctor to the task of eliminating threats to humanity. The war had transformed her from someone who preserved life into someone who protected life by any means necessary. 2 years after the rescue mission, Maya stood on the bridge of the UHS Victory as the final Kethver fleet approached Earth. She now held the rank of commander and led a unit of combat medics who had learned to apply healing knowledge to the task of eliminating alien threats. The war that had begun with humanity's compassion being used against them was about to end with that same compassion transformed into the galaxy's most effective weapon. "Commander, the alien fleet has entered weapons range," reported Lieutenant Amy Carter, who now served as Maya's tactical advisor. "Intelligence confirms that this is their last major force. If we can defeat them here, the Kethvar will no longer have the ability to threaten human space." Maya studied the tactical display, showing hundreds of alien ships moving toward Earth's defensive perimeter. Each vessel contained thousands of Kethvar, warriors and their Morvaki slaves. Traditional military tactics would result in a battle that could last months and cost millions of human lives. But Maya had developed an alternative approach that would end the war quickly and permanently. "Amy, initiate the medical protocol," Maya ordered. Over the past year, she had worked with human scientists to develop what they called the healing plague, an engineered biological weapon that would target only Kethver physiology while leaving other species completely unharmed. The weapon was designed to shut down alien nervous systems quickly and painlessly, making it the most humane method of warfare ever created. "Commander, are you certain about this?" Amy asked quietly. "Once we deploy the weapon, there will be no way to reverse its effects. Every Kethver in the fleet will be dead within hours." Maya looked at the tactical display and thought about everything that had brought her to this moment. She remembered the oath she had taken as a young doctor to do no harm and to preserve life whenever possible. She also remembered watching aliens torture her best friend and use her medical knowledge to create new forms of suffering. The person she had been before the war would have been horrified by what she was about to do. The person she had become understood that sometimes the greatest act of healing was the complete elimination of a disease. "The deployment is authorized," Maya said with the same calm voice she had always used when making difficult medical decisions. "Begin transmission of the biological agent through all communication channels. Target every ship in the alien fleet. The healing plague spread through the Kethvar fleet faster than their computers could detect it." Maya had designed the weapon to mimic harmless communication signals until it reached alien respiratory systems, where it would transform into an active pathogen. Within 30 minutes, every Kethver ship had stopped responding to tactical commands. Within 2 hours, the entire alien fleet was drifting silent and dead through space. "Commander, we are receiving surrender signals from the Morvaki vessels," Amy reported. "It appears that the slave soldiers want to negotiate for their freedom now that their Kethvar masters are gone." Maya nodded and activated the fleet communication system. She had studied Morvaki biology and knew that they had been forced to serve the Kethver through surgical implants that controlled their behavior. "This is Commander Maya Rodriguez of the Human Defense Force," she said. Any Morvaki who wishes medical assistance in removing Kethver control devices should dock with our medical ships. We will heal you and grant you freedom if you choose to. Leave in peace. Over the next several days, Maya personally supervised the medical treatment of thousands of former Morvaki slaves. She removed the alien control implants and provided therapy for beings who had been forced to commit acts of violence against their will. It was the largest healing operation in human history, and it reminded Maya that her true calling had always been to preserve and protect life. But she also knew that her willingness to kill when necessary had made this healing possible. If she had not been prepared to eliminate the Kethver threat completely, the war would have continued, and millions more beings would have suffered. The galaxy was a safer place because she had learned to apply medical knowledge to the task of ending lives quickly and efficiently when mercy required it. Captain Jake Morrison visited Maya in her medical bay as she finished treating the last group of Morvaki patients. "Doctor, I wanted to thank you for what you did," he said. "Not just in the final battle, but throughout this entire war. You found a way to end the conflict without becoming the kind of monster that our enemies were." Maya looked up from her work and smiled for the first time in months. "Jake, I learned something important during this war. Healing and killing are not opposites when they are both done in service of protecting innocent life. The Kethver taught me that compassion without the willingness to act decisively is just weakness, but the willingness to kill without compassion is just cruelty." "So what happens now?" Jake asked. "The war is over, and humanity has emerged as the dominant species in this region of space. What does a healer who learned to kill do in peacetime?" Maya considered the question carefully. Around her, the medical bay was filled with beings from a dozen different species who had come to human space seeking treatment for injuries and diseases that their own medicine could not cure. Humanity's reputation as both healers and protectors had spread throughout the galaxy, and other races were beginning to see them as the ultimate arbiters of justice and mercy. "I think humanity's real war is just beginning," Maya said finally. "We have proven that we can defend ourselves and eliminate threats when necessary. Now we need to prove that we can use our power to heal the galaxy rather than control it. I want to establish medical protocols that will prevent future wars by treating the conditions that cause them." Maya spent the remaining years of her life creating a new kind of medicine that combined traditional healing with conflict prevention. She trained a generation of human doctors who understood that sometimes the best way to preserve life was to eliminate those who threatened it, but who also knew that such actions should only be taken when all other options had been exhausted. Galaxy had never seen anything like humanity's approach to medicine and warfare. Other species either focused entirely on healing or entirely on fighting, but humans had learned to combine both approaches in ways that made them the most effective protectors of innocent life that the universe had ever known. Dr. Maya Rodriguez had begun her career believing that all life was sacred and that healing was always preferable to harming. The war had taught her that some lives were dedicated to destroying others, and that the highest form of healing was sometimes the swift and merciful elimination of those who caused suffering. She had become something new in the galaxy, a healer who wielded death in service of life and who understood that true compassion sometimes required the courage to make impossible choices.